everybody, it's Tristan Shuffles here with another Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel deck profile, and even if you're just here for this deck list, remember to like, comment, and subscribe because it really makes a difference for the channel. Today, the new Flame Swordsman support for Joey's anime archetype Flame Swordsman has released in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, and instead of playing it with a huge set of Noble Knight cards that is more of a combo variant that's very weak to Max C, I've gone with this control variant that is more similar to what Peeps Yu-Gi-Oh! Was experimenting with earlier this year in the paper TCG. So this deck revolves around the starter of the Fighting Flame Swordsman, which has two effects. If this card is normally special summoned, you can add one spell or trap that mentions Flame Swordsman from your deck to your hand. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, which you'll often be doing with the Flame Swords realm that special summons Flame Swordsman directly from your extra deck, then you're going to be able to send one Flame Swordsman or one monster that mentions it from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard. So you can either send the Salamandra, Flying Flame Dragon, which will give you another search for a Salamandra spell. If it's your turn and you're trying to close out the game on game 2, you can get the Salamandra Fusion. But if it's turn 1 and you need to be prepared for turn 2, then you search the Salamandra with Chain, which has this Book of Moon-like effect and a slight attack boost. Additionally, when it's sent to the graveyard, you'll have the option to fusion summon at any time as long as this card's in your graveyard and you have the appropriate materials. So you can even send something like the Fighting Flame Dragon with the effect Fighting Flame Swordsman to ensure that you have all the right materials for the boss monster of the deck, the ultimate Flame Swordsman himself. You can target one monster your opponent controls, destroy it, and if you do, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. This is a quick effect if this card is equipped with an equip card. A lot of the cards in this deck will equip to Ultimate Flame Swordsman, a lot like Salamandra did in the anime. And at the start of the damage step, if this card battles, you can double this card's attack until the end of this turn, but if you do, destroy it during the end phase of this turn. You're always going to want to go for that doubling of attack on your turn so that you can close out the game, often in one attack or two if it's equipped with Fighting Flame Dragon and can attack twice. Because there are so few Flame Swordsman cards in this fledgling archetype, you can run a lot of hand traps, which is why we're experimenting with the quote-unquote 7 Veiler theory, where you've got 3 copies of Effect Veiler, 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, and 1 Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. This should back up the cards that you're going to have set in your back row that are in archetype so that you'll always have a suite of hand traps and set spells and traps on the field, which feels like a slower, more control-based version of Yu-Gi-Oh! And can even slow down a lot of the top decks that you're going to be seeing in the meta right now. Because the meta right now is dominated by Tenpai, I've added 1 copy of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. You can also experiment with something like Solemn Judgment, and because we don't have 3 copies of Fenrir like in the TCG, I have the 1 copy of Kashtira Fenrir, the 2 Kashtira Unicorn, the 1 Kashtira Birth, and the Pressure Planet Wraithself. This helps support your Flame Swordsman archetype and gives you starters that aren't based in the archetype so that you can continue to play if you don't reach your starters that are Flame Swordsman cards. You've also got the Fighting Flame Sword, which has 3 whole effects. 1, you can add 1 card from your deck to your hand that mentions Flame Swordsman, so that's pretty flexible. Even if you get hit with Imperm on the Fighting Flame Swordsman, you can continue to play. When an attack is declared involving a Fire Warrior monster you control, you can target 1 card on the field, destroy it. This helps you deal with a lot of back row floodgates and can surprise your opponent in the battle phase. When your opponent activates a card effect that targets Flame Swordsman or a monster that mentions it that you control, negate that effect, so that's another way to deal with Infinite Impermanence and Effect Veiler. So that you can resolve your Flame Swordsman effects and have that back row set up on turn 1 for your opponent's turn, or have the Salamandra Fusion so that you can bring out the Ultimate Flame Swordsman on turn 2 and end the game in one fell swoop. It's a pretty standard extra deck once you overlook the 3 copies of the vanilla Flame Swordsman, I guess it's not a vanilla, but remember that you can't use this as one half of SP Little Knight because she requires 2 effect monsters as link material. So there are a lot of times where I thought, oh, this is great, I already have an extra deck monster to get SP Little Knight's additional banish. Flame Swordsman does not fill that role, but the Fighting Flame Dragon does fill that role, and a lot of the time you're going to be sending this directly from your extra deck to the graveyard, and a lot of the time you're going to be using it as fusion material for Salamandra with Chain to bring out the Ultimate Flame Swordsman that I've talked about a little earlier. Baronne de Fleur comes up because sometimes you have a level 3 hand trap monster and a level 7 Kashtira, and you need to synchro summon with those. So it's too good to pass up on. Typhon helps you when you get stuck. Salamangreat Almirage helps you get some normal summons off the field and into the graveyard so that you can get their effects, like the Salamandra Flying Flame Dragon. And we're only playing one Noble Knight, the Infer Noble Knight Ogier, as an extra normal summon for the deck, so that you can send the Fighting Flame Swordsman directly from your deck to the graveyard and proceed with its second effect from there. Heat of the Fire Charmer, Blaze. If you're playing a fire deck and this is still a fire meta, you know, Snake Eyes Diabellstar just released, so Snake Eyes is still playable. You're going to be taking fire monsters from your opponent's graveyard and linking that off to bring out Promethean Princess, which is always nice to have in the graveyard. And we're, of course, allowed to play Sprite Elf, and luckily Salamandra the Flying Flame Dragon is a level 2 monster that works perfectly with that. And then the Ferocious Flame Swordsman, this is older Flame Swordsman support. If this link summon card is destroyed by battle or by an opponent's card effect while it's in its owner's monster zone, you can target one non-link warrior monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. That effect doesn't come up too much, but a lot of the time you'll need to get a fire warrior, and you have 2 monsters with different names, so that's an easy way to make it. Now that we've gone through all the key cards in the deck, let's see how this control build of Flame Swordsman performs in Master Rank this season. Let's get into those games. For this first duel, we're up against Voiceless Voice. We are going first, and we've drawn Kashtira Unicorn and the Fighting Flame Swordsman, so that's all we need to get started. Let's start off with the Kashtira Unicorn, try to bait something out. We get the Kashtira Birth, then we get Fighting Flame Swordsman and use its effect to add Flame Swords Realm. Send the Fighting Flame Swordsman to the graveyard to bring out the original Flame Swordsman straight from the extra deck. Send the Salamandra from deck to get its search effect for the Salamandra with Chain, and set Called by Imperm and that Salamandra with Chain, pass it over to the opponent. The opponent adds with Barrier of the Voiceless Voice. That's not worth using Ash Blossom on, but that Saphira is a great option for Called by the Grave. With that taken care of, they use low, and it doesn't have the targeting protection because Skull Guardian is not yet on the field, so they just have to link it off into Linkuriboh, set their back row, and pass. Aside from that Linkuriboh, there's not much to worry about, so I send the Unicorn with the Flame Swords Realm to bring out another Flame Swordsman. We can always bring back the Unicorn with Kashtira Birth, but they have Summon Limit. So that means we're not going to be proceeding much further this turn, so we can boost the attack points of the original Flame Swordsman. And I tried to use Kashtira Unicorn's Banish effect, but they used Iron Thunder. That's okay, that takes up half their life points for us pretty easily, even at the cost of our back row. But having Salamandra with Chain in the graveyard is not so bad. They add Saphira again, and now Called by the Grave's effect is worn off, so I have to use Ash Blossom on that. But they have their own Called by the Grave, so Ash Blossom is banished there and negated. So they're going to bring out the Skull Guardian, Ritual Summoning from the graveyard using Saphira's effect there. And Skull Guardian is on the field. It uses its add effect, and lo, the Prayer of the Voiceless Voice comes back. They use the trap card to destroy Kashtira Birth. I guess they were worried about me bringing Kashtira Unicorn back, or maybe normal summoning Kashtira Fenrir in my hand, but that's not really the problem. The main problem is still that summon limit. Draw for turn, and we get the Ghost Ogre. That'll be pretty useful. We use Fighting Flame Swordsman to add Fighting Flame Sword, send it with the Swords Realm. That gets negated, giving us a nice option to use Ghost Ogre and get rid of that Skull Guardian. Now, with Fighting Flame Swordsman's second effect, we can send the Salamandra Fusion from deck to the graveyard, and I destroyed the card that was giving them targeting protection, and they do not negate the summon with Salamandra with Chain. That brings out the Ultimate Flame Swordsman which they could have stopped with Seravis, so instead they summon out their Link Reba from the graveyard. However, the attack has already been declared, allowing us to end the game by dealing 5,300 points of damage in one attack. The next game was against a Horus Tearlament deck. They are able to go first here, and we've drawn 2 Effect Failures and 1 Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill, and this game really shows off why running so many of these hand trap cards pays off. They have to fuse using the 2 copies of Shiren that they've got, and I'm able to negate Tearlament's Kick Close because I know that that normal summon could still be incoming. They bring out the King Sarcophagus, sending the Happy, and then the Imseti comes out on board, and they have Zombie Vampire. They try to use that effect, and I can negate that easily with Effect Failure, leaving them with pretty much no options, so they have to pass on that. We don't have any great starters here. Let's try for something... Maxi, that's not so great. Okay, so we can use Salamandra and send it to the graveyard with Salaman Great Almirage and turn that Salaman Great Almirage into a Superstar Slayer Typhon. Destroy Kick Close by battle so that it can't send itself by effect on the next turn. And I pushed the Zombie Vampire back into the extra deck because I wanted them to special summon their Horus monsters from the graveyard again so that they would play into the Maxi that I had in my hand. They fall for it perfectly, bringing back the 2 Horus monsters. They use Snow, which is actually good for me because now they're going to overcommit with the Zombie Vampire, allowing us another opportunity to use Effect Failure to negate it. They destroy Typhon, and now that's in the graveyard, and they do a little bit of damage with Snow, but it's not too much to worry about. Let's hope for a starter on this turn, and we get one of the best ones, the Fighting Flame Sword, allowing me to add the Fighting Flame Swordsman, who comes out on the field in attack position, add the Flame Sword's Realm, send the Fighting Flame Swordsman to bring out the original Fusion Flame Swordsman from extra deck once again, and we can send the Fighting Flame Dragon from extra deck to graveyard, and now we've got Salamandra Fusion, which allows us to special summon the Ultimate Flame Swordsman. Now, I equipped it with all these cards, and it's still not enough damage after destroying Snow. If I had saved the Salamandra with Chain for this moment, they wouldn't have had an opportunity to have any life points left and bring back the Snow, but I'm not too worried about the Snow there because we're able to special summon the Fighting Flame Dragon and destroy it, and they've got no more cards that they can banish, leaving them on just 1 card in hand, and they get an incredible top deck here when they have Reinforcement of the Army, allowing them to add Tearlament's Rhinoheart. Send with the Rhinoheart, but not so fast. We've got that 3rd and final Effect Veiler, effectively closing out the game for our opponent, and they concede. And it's time for Game 3 against the #1 meta threat, Tenpai Dragon. They've telegraphed they're on Tenpai by choosing to go second, so we are able to go first here and start off with the Fighting Flame Swordsman. Add the Flame Swords Realm for the mainline combo where we're sending the Fighting Flame Swordsman. They use Maxi here, but it's not too impactful because we're just going to special summon this Flame Swordsman, which only gives them 1 draw. We use the search on the Salamandra Dragon to get the Salamandra with Chain, set everything, and pass to them. Good luck. They draw for turn, but they don't have too many cards off the Maxi. They have Twin Twister, which is not as bad as something like Lightning Storm or Heavy Storm, and I use the effect of Salamandra with Chain, just in case. Anyway, they've got the Tenpai Dragon Pi draw in the field, which we can negate with Effect Failure. They jump at the opportunity to special summon Bestial Magnemite as soon as they can, and that special summon allows us to activate Flame Swords Dance, setting Pydra face down and bringing out Fighting Flame Dragon. Use Flame Swords Realm's effect to gain those attack points, which forces them to crash their monster unexpectedly. They add the Tenpai Dragon Genroku, bringing out Chandra. So we can't go to battle with Chandra because it'll get its damage step effect to special summon another Tenpai Dragon from deck, but they've got Ash Blossom there to negate the surge on Raitsa. That's okay, we weren't going to be able to summon any Kashtiras because our board was full anyway. So I can search for a Fighting Flame Swordsman instead, send it again, bring out another copy of the Fusion Flame Swordsman, use Fighting Flame Swordsman to send the rest of the materials that I need for the Ultimate Flame Swordsman from extra deck to graveyard, use the Salamander to equip, and we've got the Salamandra Fusion as well, so it has a hulking attack stat of 4,300. They negate the destruction effect. Okay, we're going to have to find a different way to deal with Chandra. Use Heat of the Fire Charmer to bring back Ash Blossom, that's to affect monsters, so now we can go into SP Little Knight, banish their Chandra, leaving them on just 1 card, and we've got the SP Little Knight as a backup if it has an effect. And we also have the pop effect still live on the Ultimate Flame Swordsman, allowing us to destroy that Chundra and close out the game. Luckily, it wasn't destroyed during the end phase because of that Salamandra Fusion protection effect. So we're back with the deck list, and even though there were some tough matchups in those games, this deck prevailed above it all. With the 3 Effect Veiler, the 3 Infinite Impermanence, and the Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill, having a suite of hand traps like that felt really strong against the current meta. And yes, if our opponent had drawn something like Harpy's Feathered Duster or Heavy Storm, this whole strategy would have completely fallen apart. But only one deck is playing those cards, Tenpai, and sometimes they're not even running Heavy Storm because they're more focused on monster removal, and this deck can still thrive with just its back row or just the hand trap cards that you have left after getting your board broken, so that you can close out the game with Ultimate Flame Swordsman, which is just an awesome card that we got to see the full potential of today. That'll do it for this video. I'm actually excited about this new set. I wasn't feeling so great about the one a couple weeks ago, but now I'm back into the game, and I'm looking forward to making more videos about the more new cards in Master Duel and taking on Master Rank in Season 35. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you all in the next video.